Now for global
you
business
some
of
bold
this.
claims, Dr.
Rotus Oddiri.
I want you to make
Good morning,
talking
Rotus.
about the services industry in Nigeria.
The oldest service industry.
The largest
service industry.
contributor to the economy. Dr. Basi,
Did they factor that in the new GDP numbers?
They did, but they haven't given us the breakdown.
The breakdown. We must like
We have to. I'm asking them for it. Vimbai, good morning. Rufai, welcome
club
back.
you people are doing today, eh?
If only you guys knew what we're talking about off air. But let's start with India. There's this big poster. There's been protests in India. There's we have it. There's a sign there it is, yeah. Unpredictable and shocking 25% tariff plus penalty with Trump and Narendra Modi in a warm embrace, supposed to suggest that they are friends. Why is the US doing this to India? India's Ministry of Foreign Affairs put out a press release yesterday calling out, frankly, the hypocrisy of the US and the EU, saying that you are targeting India unjustified and unreasonably. We need this oil from Russia because we need affordable energy. India has refineries, but they don't produce oil, right? So they're a net importer. We need affordable energy for our citizens. And he said the US, and this is true, I checked this, the US imports uranium hexafluoride from Russia for its nuclear facilities. It imports palladium for its electric vehicles, imports chemicals from Russia. The EU, as of last year... fertilizer, thank you. Last year, they had
people America can fight. You know the hypocrisy of America.
But the EU is there too. EU had a 67.5 billion euro goods in trade with Russia as of last year. So India is saying, why are you calling us out? Oil prices have been volatile because, if they have sanctions on people, entities that buy Russian oil, that will impact demand. But then there's also the supply side with OPEC adding barrels of oil to the market. So it inched up. I think even right before I came on air, it was down again. Anyway, 68.82 for Brent, 66.35 for West Texas Intermediates. We get to Palantir. I'm really excited to dive into the earnings of this company. If you don't know about Palantir, you better ask somebody. It's here's a video. This is a company that is involved in software development, and the US government is their biggest customer. This is a video talking about how preemptive strikes are part of what AI does. That's what they use. Here it is. So their tagline is the war is won before it begins. That's the slogan of the company, and that's Alex Capra, who is their CEO. Funny enough, he looks like a Lord of the Rings character, and there are Palantir crystals in that movie. But basically, they aggregate data for analysis, and they're used in counterterrorism to fight insecurity. They're used in crisis management, crisis response, and also for preemptive strikes. So they basically assess possible threats to the United States using artificial intelligence, tagging out their movements. And you can assume that Palantir, and that software you look is called Gotham. So you can assume that the Gotham software was used for example, the preemptive strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. As far as their second quarter earnings, they beat Wall Street expectations. $1 billion for the first time they hit it. And if you look at US revenues, this has been a concern for investors. 70% of their total revenue comes from the United States. And then out of that US revenue of $733 million, 426 is for the US government. So that's another 58% of US revenues going to the US government. But commercial revenue, they also use, they have an enterprise arm where they help businesses to use AI to analyze data. It rose by 93%, so it rose faster than government revenues, which suggests that their commercial arm is growing because you don't want all your eggs in one basket. The stock price is just, the appreciation is insane. The 1 year return on this stock is 566%. For this year alone, it's 106. But the earnings multiples are just crazy. The price to earnings is triple digits, price to sales. Investors are pricing in some heavy growth for the company, and some feel that it's a bit frothy and it's a bit overvalued, because I don't think there's any company on the S&P 500 that has the earnings multiples of Palantir. But they did well. Stock price rose another 4 or 5% yesterday. I know Vimbai wanted to chime in on this yesterday. So the backlash over the firing of the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The former head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, William Beach, was on CNN, and he basically said that there's just no way that the head of the BLS can rig the jobs numbers. Remember, the jobs numbers came in really poor, and Trump fired her, saying that she was rigging the numbers for political purposes. So here's William Beach.
Way for that to happen. The commissioner doesn't do anything to collect the numbers. The commissioner doesn't see the numbers until Wednesday before they're published. By the time the commissioner sees the numbers, they're all prepared. They're locked into the computer system. The only thing the commissioner does on Wednesday is to kind of do the edits on the text. So there's no hands-on at all for the commissioner. I was commissioner, and I was sometimes locked out of the process of actually, where the people were working in the building. So there's no way for doing that.
Yeah, so anyway, and finally, shout out to our YouTube community. Someone on there, they give us the highest viewership numbers in the country and possibly across Africa. Someone asked me, Rotus, why should we care about job numbers falling in the US? Well, you should care because of the diaspora. The highest amount of diaspora Nigerians are in the United States, and if they're not hiring, they can't send those remittances. Remittances from the US into Nigeria are higher than FPI inflows. So you need to care about the US job number so your cousin in Florida can send you some money.
I'm very apt. And one point I wanted to make also during when we're celebrating the girls was, I think when you check the Falcons team and the Tigress team, that's a strong case for diaspora voting.
Yep.
The bulk of the girls that won were from the diaspora, Nigerians in the diaspora. But again, Vimba, I will give you one of a quote you like.
Is it Khosha?
No, it's not Khosha. This time it's from a man called Georges Clemenceau. And Georges Clemenceau was Prime Minister of France. In fact, something happened in 1917. During the First World War, he was pushed to quickly write a letter to America, which was the largest producer of petrol. And he said, a drop of oil is worth more than blood. That's exactly what is happening between Russia, India, and America and the EU. A drop of oil is worth more than blood. That's why America will get their fertilizer supplies from Russia. They'll get everything from Russia. They'll condemn Russia publicly, but they will not stop the value chain of the fertilizers they get from Russia. But they will give Ukraine weapons to bomb Russia. But they will target the weapons in such a way that it must not go close to their fertilizer and all the things they need from Russia. That's why Russia is selling its oil to India. India is recycling. America is going after them. But America is also India's largest trade partner, 140 billion in trade between those two countries. That's why all the bromance is going on. But India knows the heinous crimes being committed, perpetrated against Ukraine. But they will not speak up. Why? Because like Georges Clemenceau did say, a drop of oil is worth more than blood.
Real quick, I just wanted to shout out, you mentioned the Tigress. You know we have an average height of our Rise newswomen. That's pretty high. So we have a top 5, there it is. Yeah. Rise News basketball starting 5. Oji Okwe, Adefemi Akinsanya, Ebi Imo, Catch you off here. I will have to shout out Ijoma Wogo. Remember, Ijoma Wogo is a 6-footer. So that's our starting
She's our captain.
She's our captain, yeah. All right, okay, back to what you were saying.
I hope they'll share the money now. When they win, I hope they'll share the money. I love it. I love it.
All right.
Very quickly on India, I think this is the greatest embarrassment that can happen to India, and I think that's why they're reacting in the way they have, because they have done everything possible to pander to this relationship they have with the United States. I think India remains the only member of the BRICS community who was unable to speak up in support of Iran when at the depth of the crisis a few months ago, because they were trying to be very gentle on their foreign policy. They were trying to manage their relationship with the United States. Narendra Modi was, trying to play the good cop, bad cop in that relationship. And now this has all come and blown up in his face. Now, this is terrible for him because his ratings in India are already on the decline. People hate the fact that he's always traveling. Inequality in India continues to grow. Now, what has this done? This has highlighted the fact that India is buying cheap oil from Russia, but Indians are now saying, but why don't we buy cheap fuel? So this cheap oil is remaining in a profiteering space for the elites, but the common man is not feeling the benefit of this cheap Russian oil. So the Indians are now saying, well, so be it. If this is what's going to bring the end Narendra Modi's reign, then so be it. Very quickly, I know we need to go very quickly on the jobs numbers.
Yes.
So here's my take on this.
I know you wanted to speak on this yesterday.
Here's my very, very neutral and biased take on this, is that when you look at the variance, right? Neutral and biased.
It's biased, man.
Unbiased.
Trump take. Oh yeah.
No.
Oh yeah, take it.
And it started before Donald Trump.
Yes.
Even under Joe Biden,
Yes.
the variation between the projection and what is reported is way beyond the margin of error. So it may not be partisan, but there's something wrong with the way the Bureau of Statistics are calculating their jobs numbers. There's no statistics on earth where you'll accept more than a 3% variation at most as a reported number.
But when Trump uses against Biden in the election, it was not fair then. You guys, this is biased.
The American experts have also made the point that these revisions are normal and regular.
Right.
The fact that these particular figures have been given last Friday does not mean that they cannot be revised for that.
Exactly.
What we're dealing with, as I said yesterday, is Trump's authoritarianism, which has no place in a democracy. Now, talking about India, one point that needs to be added is that India Foreign Ministry is in fact saying that the decision to buy oil from Russia was actually on the advice of the United States. And the same United States that advised them on how best to survive is the same country now that is saying we punish you for patronizing Russia. Even when the EU was the third largest trading partner of Russia in the year 2024. 2 years earlier, they were the largest trading partner of Russia. So, in other words, the point here is about that hypocrisy. You were talking about Palantir, the software developer. Well, the truth of the matter is that the stock market, after collapsing for about 4 days or going down for about 4 days in the US, it's on the rebound.
That's right.
As of yesterday, the S&P 500 has gone right up, and then the companies that are called the Magnificent Seven. Year on year, they've recorded 26% increase in terms of their stock price. So the economy seems to be doing well. In other words, whatever Trump is doing with tariffs and the anxiety that is causing going back and forth, investors will seem to have gone beyond that. The EU has now said it's not going to do reciprocal tariffs.
6 months.
They will give the US 6 months to allow them to further negotiate with the US and to work on what they call a joint statement in terms of their reaction to the United States. I wanted to talk about this bond, $15,000 bond. But again, we don't have time. However, it's only for B1, B2 categories.
That's right.
And this lady was mentioning Nigeria and some other countries may be affected. The real countries that may be affected first are Mexico, Venezuela, Brazil, all those neighboring countries. Don't let us do auto-suggestion and add Nigeria to the list.
True.
We should wait for the Americans. They say as early as today, they will give us the list. So there's no list yet.
Right.
Don't go and do auto-suggestion and add Nigeria to it.
We don't want trouble.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abati.
Thank you.